fruit of thy. Say Anthony of Padua, in the Father and of the Son and the Holy Ghost. Okay, Leo, can you make that go?
Sure.
And we're not on the front board because everyone's gonna have to turn around if we're not on the front board. The exciting thing to tell you is that my friend's son this past week was in Spain playing soccer. He got picked up by Real Madrid, which is a fancy soccer team. He's 13, he's Ryan's age. Anyway, she said she was in Spain and she started talking about the beautiful things. I said, hey, do you know we're reading Don Quixote? She's like, oh, I've heard of that. And so she went looking for Cervantes and she goes, he's everywhere. So here's what she says. I've got pictures, I've got video. This is a person, this is my friend Maria DiPaolo Greer, who is originally from Canada, from Ontario. Her parents are grew up in Italy. Were both traditional Catholics who did not raise their children traditionally. Like the dad said the rosary, but didn't have the family say the rosary. She married a Jehovah's Witness. And yeah, he was. The parents insisted on a church wedding, which they did privately. And their big wedding was in this cathedral in Ontario. You should see the pictures. Anyway, I've been praying for her conversion for 20 years. Her boys she has 2 boys. I don't even think they're baptized because the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't really stand on any ceremony. So like the dad didn't really let them celebrate birthdays so much or Halloween, or they go back to Ontario for Christmas. So they do Christmas with her family a little bit traditionally. Anyway, this woman is a baptized soul who has been completely sucked in by the modern, she's a liberal. She listens to NPR and all that. But here's Cervantes, okay? As Catholic can be, right? Here's what she says. His family had a beautiful home in the little town of Alcalá de Henares. The water well is on the main floor on the left as you enter. Can you believe it's in the house? You can see it in video. The house is on a main strip, which is now all little shops owned by local residents. It's great that his birth city decided to restore his home and turn it into a museum. It's free to enter. To give you an idea, it's 40 minutes from Madrid, from the main Madrid bus station, and 10 minutes walk to his home outside Madrid. I kept asking her about where he's buried, because remember we read that it's in the cathedral there? Well, first she said, I'm going to go see where he's buried. And then she said this, I was able to go to the church and convent of the Trinitarius where Cervantes and his wife are buried. It wasn't open, but I took photos from the outside. It's on a side street in Madrid next to homes. Why Cervantes chose to be buried at this convent is a fascinating story. And the story of how the archaeologist recovered his bones 350 years later is also quite fascinating. You should definitely look it up. Otherwise, let me know and I'll send you links with the stories. Okay. So there's the plaque on the outside of the convent, which is dedicated to him and saying that he's buried there with his wife. There's the convent doors. Now it's interesting to know if there's any actual nuns in there anymore. That's what it looks like. So it looks like they built the original stonework is probably from the convent in the 1600s. And then look at that. It's just on a regular street, kind of like Father Waters in New York, right? Okay. Everyone can hear me, right? Anna, you can hear me? Okay. Now, So this is a picture of inside of his home. All this is in Spanish, so we can't really read it, but she took pictures of everything she saw. There's also inside his home, see the kitchen with the pots? What do you see? That's Mombrino's helmet.
Wait, where?
What?
That's tiny. Am I blind? It looks small. Nobody's head is that small.
There he is.
Oh,
So this is in a regular street in Madrid. They found his house and turned it into a museum, but it's in a neighborhood. And now I don't know who the guy's supposed to be, except like every man who's like, what is this guy doing with his armor and his lance? There's the house.
Pretty big.
he must be really rich.
He was rich, remember? There's the well that's inside the house.
How does that work?
I don't know. I guess they just
You see
dug
the
the
well?
well. Yep, there's
You see the
the
wall, I guess use
No,
our
pulley for the bucket.
It's just, where's the water source? Like under the house?
It's under the house, yeah.
You get clean water then.
This is his house. She made us a video. It's a teeny bit boring. But look at the stones on the steps. Those are stone steps.
Did they rebuild the house or
I think restored it, not redo it.
no?
So yeah, they tried to make it,
Yeah.
like those are old, you can tell that's an old floor. Isn't it huge?
Yeah. Imagine living in this house today. You must be building here.
And then all the rooms they turn, and everyone's been in a museum, so there's all these old books, which I can't read anything, so I don't know what it is, but they took the rooms and turned them into. Look at the old map. I wish we could understand what it is. The map at the time of Spain when he wrote. Anyone know Spanish? None of you do, right?
Send it to me and
Yeah.
I can get it translated or we can run it through Google Translate. If you want to know.
Yeah, if anyone is interested, I can send you this. I just, look at that. Catalonia. Now she's got all these old books. Look at these books, but I can't tell if they're different versions of Don Quixote or, because that's like an illustration. Can't see what that's.
And she just walked around by herself
Yeah,
and you're like, you don't need a guide and you know, you do everything.
no, and it was free to go in. She just walked around. And it looks like all the hallways are also. Servants' quarters, it looks like. So for Europe, Mariana, correct me if I'm wrong, for Europe, this feels like a large, like the rooms are large. When we stayed in Rome in an old hotel, everything in Europe is compact. The cars are compact, the streets are compact, the houses are, everything's compact. So this feels really large compared to other European things that I've seen. Just that's a lot of room for servants.
Yeah.
So that looks like a mini altar, but obviously Our Lady.
Could Miss Maria understand what she was reading?
Yes. because she knows Italian and French, and she said it was very similar, so she was able to even speak to people. She figured it out really fast. She was there for a week by herself because her son was playing soccer the whole time, so she was touring, and I sent her off on this thing, so now she wants to read Don Quixote. Okay, there's your indoor toilet. Which for the rich, right? Mostly it was outhouse. You go to the outhouse. Okay, I'm gonna go forward a little bit.
That was
Here's another picture of Our Lady. Oh. You know what that is, right? Yeah, Sanctuary Lamb. Hi, Maria. Look at the doors.
I believe the floor is stone. That's just weird.
Hmm.
Like, what if you fall? You're gonna break something for sure. Or if you drop it, it's gonna-
Oh, girl. I don't know what that means.
you have a phone. Okay,
Look at that chest. Look at the size of the crucifix. See on the left? I'm sorry.
the bed is really small.
it's long.
No, it's small.
That's nice. What's on the
Yes.
floor?
A tire looks like. No, wrong.
That's probably a 300-year-old piece of furniture there.
What do you know? It's a president of the
It is
There he is. Yeah.
Hey, all
They all look Spanish.
well, Shakespeare looks like that too. in pictures.
All right, almost done. Oh.
Huh.
Oh, the puppets.
Yeah. I'll show you.
I think they brought to life parts of the book.
In puppet form.
Yeah.
Yes, it's in the Bible. That's a lot of puppet. Maybe those are people.
Okay, I think that's it.
What? Not everything is original, right?
No, I don't think so.
I think they have to redo something, right? Otherwise, it will be like too old.
Boy, here's some more. Oh, there's the well. She thought it was so cool that the well was inside the house. And she said it was very unusual.
And she would know.
It is.
Well, at the time, it was unusual to have inside water, I think is the idea, and inside, like, that's what she was trying to say.
All the Asian houses in China has, inside water.
At this time, wells inside?
Yeah.
Not China's not this old.
Hmm?
Old is China.
What do you mean all in China? I don't know, several thousand years.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
No, I don't buy that either. They made way too old.
Yeah, not that stuff.
No.
Oh, what about the ancient extreme the ancient Chinese? Like, wait, that's not it. Back in it.
Yes, because, yes, Coco, they do go back. pretty far. Hard to tell what this is.
It's the main level.
Yeah,
A kitchen.
yep.
What's that?
Place.
Like a cupboard and
Those are not helmets.
Pretty big room.
This and
some minor. Cortina.
That's the kitchen.
That's the kitchen.
what is the white part? Is it like
Fire.
fireplace?
Yeah,
Why that thing looks like plastic?
some more books.
And that
Oh.
those books from like any of the ones that he was reading, like his stories from.
It's a good question, Colleen, if they have books that old there. Brush your teeth.
The big building.
Now, I was hoping she would also send me pictures of she said the churches were beautiful. I don't know, is that the equivalent to like a living room?
Boys, is this women or men?
The dress looked like a woman.
That was not. It's really cool.
Okay, I think that's everything. All right, I just thought that was interesting that she got to see that. If anyone wants me to send it, I can. Stop share. When last we met, I don't even remember.
Oh, 32.
We're at page 706, but oh, Sancho and the 3,000 lashes. So if you want the government of your own isle, you're gonna have to do some penance. I also asked my friend Maria to look for anything St. John of the Cross or St. Teresa of Avila, and I haven't heard back from her about that. But I did some research over the break, and I did find out that for sure Cervantes was reading those saints, and was familiar with the Dark Night of the Soul. And it seems to me that Don Quixote in the mountains, with his self-inflicted penance, was going through a dark night, and when he came out on the other side, he was more holy for it. And now we have Sancho, who is finally getting his, what we all thought was probably impossible. But the one requirement is, if you want to govern this isle, you're gonna have to do this penance, and it's 3,000 lashes, right? 3,000? Yeah. So, on the page of middle of 705, it says, I say that I agree to the penance with the conditions noted. So he's going to Duke and Duchess returned to their castle with the intention of following up their joke, for nothing promised them greater pleasure. Chapter 36 of the strange and inconceivable adventure of the afflicted waiting woman, alias the Countess Trifaldi, with a letter which Sancho Panza wrote to his wife, Teresa Panza. Nina, you're up.
Was the steward of the Dukes, a very comical and nimble-witted fellow, who had played the part of Merlin and arranged all the details of the last adventure. He had composed the verses and made a page play Dulcinea, and now with the collaboration of his master and mistress he contrived another plan, the most amusing and the strangest imaginable. Next day the Duchess inquired of Sancho whether he had begun upon the penance he had undertaken for the disenchanting of Dulcinea, and he replied that he had, for on the night before he had given himself 5 strokes. But when the Duchess asked with what instrument, he replied it was with his hand. That, said the Duchess, is more like a slapping than a whipping. It is my opinion that the sage Merlin will not be content with such softness. The good Sancho will have to get a whip with prickles or a cat o' nine's tail, and that can be felt. For learning must be beaten in, and the release of a great lady like Dulcinea must not be sold so cheap. Remember, Sancho, that works of charity which are performed feebly and half-heartedly have no merit and are worth nothing. To which Sancho replied, "Give me a whip or a proper rope's end, your ladyship, and I'll use it, so long as it doesn't hurt me too much. For I would have your grace know that, peasant though I am, my flesh is more like cotton than rushes, and it would not be right for me to destroy myself for someone else's good." "Very well," answered the Duchess. "Tomorrow I will give you a whip which will just suit you, and agree with the tenderness of your flesh like its own sister." To which Sancho replied, "I must tell you, your highness, dear lady of my heart, that I've written a letter to my wife, Teresa Panza, giving her an account of everything that's happened to me since I left her. I have it here inside my shirt. There's nothing lacking but the signature. I wish that your wisdom would read it, for I think it's written in a governor's style. I mean it in a way that governors should write." "And who dictated it?" asked the Duchess. "Who should have dictated it but myself, poor sinner that I am," answered Sancho. "And did you write it yourself?" asked the Duchess. "Not a bit of it," answered Sancho, "for I can't read or write, though I can make my mark." "Let us see it," said the Duchess, "for no doubt it will display the quality and aptness of your wit." On which Sancho drew from his breast an unsealed letter, which the Duchess took, and saw that it ran like this: Sancho Panza's letter to Teresa Panza, his wife. "If it is a good whipping they gave me, it is a fine mount I have now. If I have a governorship, it costs me a good whipping. You will not understand this now, dear Teresa, but one day you will. I must tell you, Teresa, that I am determined you shall ride in a coach, for that is the proper thing. Every other way of traveling is like going on all fours. Wife of a governor you are. See if anyone will tread on your heels. I am sending you herewith a green huntsman's suit, which my lady the Duchess gave me. Turn it into a bodice and skirt for our daughter. Don Quixote, my master, as I have heard tell in these parts, is a same magnate and a droll idiot, and they say I am just as bad. We have been in Montesinos cave, and the sage Merlin has got me to help in the disenchantment of Dulcinea del Toboso, whom you at home call Aldonza Lorenzo. With the 3,300 lashes, less 5, which I am to give myself, she will be as disenchanted as the mother that bore her. You will tell nobody about this, for take your business to court, and some will say it is white and some black. In a few days I shall leave for my governorship, to which I go very anxious to make money, and I am told that all new governors go in the same frame of mind. I will take its pulse and advise you if you are to come with me or no. Dapple is well, and sends his greeting. I do not intend to leave him behind, even if I am taken to be made a Grand Turk. My lady the Duchess kisses your hands 1,000 times. Send her 2,000 kisses in return, for there is nothing that costs less or goes cheaper. As my fast master says, then fair compliments. God has been pleased to furnish me with another bag of another 100 crowns like the last time, but do not let that worry you, dear Teresa, for the man who sounds the alarm is safe. They will all come out in the watch. I mean the governorship. Only one thing troubles me. They say that once I taste it I shall eat my hands after, and if then so I shall not get off very cheap, although the maimed and handless find king's alms as good as a canary. So one way or another you will be rich and fortunate." God grant you as he can, and preserve me to serve you. From this castle, the 20th of July, 1614. Your husband, the Governor, Sancho Panza. When she had finished reading the letter, the Duchess said to Sancho, "There are two small matters in which the worthy Governor is a little astray. The first is in saying, or leaving it to be understood, that he has been given the governorship in return for the whipping he has to take. Though he knows, as he cannot deny, that when my lord the Duke promised it to him, no one dreamt that there was such a thing as whipping in the world. The other is that he revealed considerable covetousness, and I would not like him to turn out badly, for covetousness bursts the bag, and the greedy governor does ill-governed justice." "I don't mean all that, lady," answered Sancho, "and if your worship thinks that this letter doesn't go as it should, I've only to tear it up and write a new one, though maybe it'll be a worse one, if it's left to my poor brain." "No, no," replied the Duchess, "it is a good one, and I want the Duke to see it." Upon this they went out into the garden, where they were to dine that day, and the Duchess showed Sancho's letter to the Duke, who was highly delighted with it. They dined, and when the cloths had been removed, and they had amused themselves for a good while with Sancho's savoury conversation, they suddenly heard the doleful sound of a fife and the harsh beating of an untuned drum. Every one seemed disturbed by this confused, warlike, and melancholy music, especially Don Quixote, who could not sit still for pure excitement. Of Sancho it can only be said that fear took him to his accustomed refuge, which was at the Duchess's side or in her skirts. For in sober earnest the sound they heard was most doleful and melancholy. Then, while they were all waiting in suspense, they saw coming down from the garden before them two men clad in mourning robes, so long and flowing that they trailed on the ground. And as they came, they beat two great drums, also swathed in black. By their side walked the fifer, pitch black like them. And these three were followed by a personage of gigantic size, bemantled rather than clad. In the blackest of cloaks, with a monstrously long trail. Over his cloak he wore a broad shoulder strap, black as well, from which hung a huge scimitar with black hilts and sheath. His face was covered by a transparent black veil, through which could be seen a very long and snow-white beard, and he kept step to the drum beat with great gravity and composure. To be brief, his size, his solemn gait, his blackness, and his escort were sufficient to produce the amazement they did in all who saw him, and did not know who he was. Thus he approached in slow and ceremonious state, and knelt before the Duke, who, with every one else present, awaited him standing, and would not allow him to speak until he had risen up. This the prodigious scarecrow did, and, once on his feet, raised the mask from his face to reveal the most horrid, long, white, thick beard ever till then beheld by human eyes. Then from his broad and swelling chest he strained and forced out a grave and sonorous voice, fixing his eyes on the Duke as he spoke. "Most high and powerful lord, my name is Trifaldin of the White Beard. I am squire to the Countess Trifaldi, otherwise called the afflicted waiting woman. On whose behalf I bring your highness a message. It is that your magnificence should be pleased to grant her faculty and license to enter and tell you of the plight, which is one of the strangest and most amazing that any troubled mind in all the world could imagine. But first she wishes to know whether in this castle of yours there is staying the valorous and unconquered knight Don Quixote de la Mancha, and to seek whom she has come on foot and fasting from the kingdom of Candaya to this your realm, a journey which should rightfully be reckoned miraculous or performed by force of enchantment. She is waiting at the door of this fortress or county house, and only waits your good pleasure to enter. I have spoken." Then he coughed and stroked his beard from top to bottom with both hands, in great composure, waiting the Duke's reply, which was: "Many days ago, good Squire Trifaldin, of the White Beard, we heard of the distress of my lady Countess Trifaldi, whom enchanters have caused to be called the afflicted waiting woman. You may gladly tell her to enter, stupendous Squire, and that the valiant knight Don Quixote de la Mancha is here, from whose generous nature she may safely expect every protection and aid. You may tell her also on my behalf that if she is in need of my help it shall not fail her, for I am bound to aid her by my knighthood, which compels me to favor every sort of woman, in particular widowed matrons in distress and affliction, for such her ladyship must be." On hearing this, Trifaldin bent his knee to the ground, and motioning the fife and drum to strike up, quitted the garden to the same music and at the same pace as he had come in, leaving every one amazed at his presence and gravity. Then the Duke turned to Don Quixote and said, "To be sure, renowned knight, neither the darkness of malice nor of ignorance can cover and obscure the light of valor and virtue. This I say because, virtuous sir, you have hardly been 6 days with us at the castle, and already the sorrowful and afflicted come from far off and distant lands to seek you, and not in coaches or on dromedaries, but on foot and fasting, confident of finding in that mighty arm the remedy for their distresses and hardships. Thanks to your great deeds, which cover and circle the whole of the known world. I wish, Sir Duke, replied Don Quixote, that blessed man of religion were here, who showed at table the other day so great a distaste for knights errant, and so malignant a grudge against them, so that he might see with his own eyes whether such knights are necessary in the world. He would at least have certain evidence that you're extraordinarily afflicted and disconsolate in harsh predicaments and appalling misfortunes do not go to seek their remedy at the houses of scholars, nor at the village sexton, nor to the knight who has never ventured beyond the boundaries of his town, nor to the slothful courtier, who had rather look for the news than to tell and repeat than attempt to perform deeds and exploits for others to relate and write down. Remedy for distresses, relief in hardships, succoring of maidens, and consoling of widows are nowhere so readily to be obtained as from knights errant. I give infinite thanks to heaven that I am one, and I do not repine at whatever trouble or hardship may befall me in this most honorable exercise. Let the waiting woman come in and ask what she will, for I will work her relief by the strength of my arm and the dauntless resolution of my courageous spirit.
Did anybody notice the turn? For 700 pages, what has Don Quixote been doing? What's he been doing?
Like seeking adventure.
Thank you, Mary. Seeking for people to help. And now what's happening? People are coming to him. What's the difference? Stop looking for it and it found him. Because, well, he got holy, right? So now he can do the work that he wanted to do before, but he wasn't ready to do without doing work on himself. You got to do the work on yourself first before you can help others. It's like when you get on the airplane.
Yeah.
And they give you the instructions. When you get on the airplane, they've got this little trifold in the front little pocket of the seat in front of you. And the stewardess stands there, one in the front and one in the back, and they say, here's the safety features, and they do this and this and this to show you where the exits are. Got that right? And then they tell you about certain things, and they say, in the unlikely event of a water landing, or if the pressure goes down in the cabin, mask will drop, and they've got this little plastic tube thing,
Yeah, with
and they
yellow
let go of it, and this looks like a yellow cup. And it's got a elastic band, and you're supposed to put it on, and even though the bag doesn't inflate, the air will flow freely through the mask. But please put your mask on yourself, and they do this first before you help others. So if you yourself can't breathe, how are you supposed to help the kid next to you to put on their mask to breathe? So you have to help yourself first. Even though your instinct might be, oh, I gotta make sure my kid is breathing. You have to breathe first and help yourself before you can help anybody else. It's kind of the same thing, a little bit. Chapter 37, the famous adventure of the afflicted waiting woman continued. The Duke and Duchess were highly delighted to see how well Don Quixote responded to their plan. But at that point, Sancho exclaimed, I shouldn't like this lady to lay any stumbling block in the way of my promised government. For once, I heard a Toledo apothecary say, and he talked like a linnet, that where waiting women meddled, no good could come of it. Heavens alive, how that apothecary disliked them. Now since, as far as I can make out, all waiting women are meddlers and troublemakers, whatever their quality or condition. What will they be like when they're afflicted? As they say, this countess 3 skirts or 3 tails is. For in my country, skirts and tails, tails and skirts are all the same. Be quiet, Sancho, my friend, said Don Quixote. For since this waiting lady comes from such distant lands to seek me, she cannot be one of those in the apothecary's reckoning, particularly since she is a countess. And when countesses serve as waiting women, it will be in the service of queens and empresses, for in their own houses they are high ladies and are served by other waiting women. At which Doña Rodriguez, who was present, spoke up. My lady, the Duchess has waiting women in her service who might have been countesses in their own right if fortune had been kind. But laws go as kings will. Let no one speak ill of waiting women, particularly when they are old and unmarried. For though I am not one, yet I can easily see and appreciate the advantage that a maiden waiting woman has over a widow. And the man who clipped us still has the shears in his hand. All the same, replied Sancho, there is so much to shear in these waiting women, according to my barber, that it would be better not to stir the rice, even though it cakes. Squires are always our enemies, replied Doña Rodriguez. For, seeing that they are imps of the antechambers and watch us at every turn, such times as they are not praying, and those are many, they spend in gossiping about us, disinterring our bones and interring our good names. But let me tell those animated logs that we shall live in a world in spite of them, and in the houses of the great, though we die of hunger and cover our bodies, delicate or otherwise, with black weeds like a nun's, as a dunghill and sometimes covered up with a sheet on a days of a procession. I can assure you that if I were allowed, and the time were right, I would let them know, not only those present, but the whole world, that there is no virtue that you will not find in a waiting woman. I believe, said the Duchess, that my good Doña Rodriguez is right, very right. But she must wait for a fitting time to defend herself and other waiting women, to refuse the bad opinion of that evil apothecary, and to uproot it entirely from the breast of the great Sancho Panza. To which Sancho replied, since I've had a sniff at the governorship, all squirely vapors have left me, and I don't give a wild fig for all the waiting women in the world. They would have continued with the waiting woman controversy had they not heard the fife and drums strike up again to announce the approach of the afflicted one. The Duchess then asked the Duke whether it would be right to go and receive her, since she was a countess and a lady of rank. Insofar as she's a countess, observed Sancho, before the Duke could reply, I'm for your highnesses going out to receive her. But insofar as she's a waiting woman, I'm of the opinion you shouldn't stir a step. Who asked you to meddle in this, Sancho? Asked Don Quixote. Who, sir? Asked Sancho. I meddle, and I've a right to meddle as a squire who has learnt the laws of courtesy in your worship's school. For you're the most courteous and well-bred knight that there is in all courtship. And in these matters, as I've heard your worship say, you may lose as much by a card too many as by a card too few, and good ears need few words. It is as Sancho says, said the Duke. We will see the shape of the countess and measure by that the courtesy due to her. At this, the drums and the fife came in as before. Here, the author ended this brief chapter and began the next, pursuing the same adventure, one of the most notable in the story. Okay, so when we see you at 10:25, we will approach the afflicted one, capital A, capital O, who's a duchess turned waiting woman. Any thoughts? See you at 10:25, girls.